Hi guys and welcome to the attacking tutorial here for Football Manager 2017. Following on from the midfielding tutorial last time out, we have still one position that we have to fill today, and that's of course the striker. So we play a false nine in this Manchester United team, so we'll be covering that first and foremost, but we will, because I reckon this will be a bit of a shorter video, we will talk about different style of players that you might want to have up top, because this formation does work with a number of different strikers. So we'll throw in Marcus Rashford just now into this position, and we'll take a look at what makes him a good false nine and striker sort of overall. So Marcus Rashford, as you can see, is a world-class striker, 25 years of age now. False nine is what he is primarily deployed as in this setup, so we'll have a look. Dribbling and finishing, always important for a striker you want involved in the game. Maybe you have a bit of a donkey up front who just puts the ball in the net, so the dribbling's not that important, but Marcus Rashford as a false nine will be coming deep, holding the ball up, getting involved in play, dragging defenders around, that kind of thing. So his dribbling is quite important. Finishing's always going to be important for a striker to put the ball in the net. First touch, of course, ball getting rolled into him, going to be important. Going to be important as well if you play perhaps a poacher and he's running through, he's going to take a first touch as he's bearing down on the goalkeeper. So for a striker, really important, particularly for the false nine, because he's going to be dropping deep, maybe playing with his back to goal, getting involved, playing the ball out wide, perhaps holding it up to play in. In the last tutorial we talked a bit about Martin Odegaard, how he likes to play 1-2s. So he rolls it into Rashford's feet. Good first touch with his 15 first touch to trap the ball for Rashford. And then his passing, which is 12, which is kind of on the lower end of competent. You know, 15 or above is good, and kind of 12 to 14 I would consider competent. And you can get away with having a few competent support stats. For Rashford, passing is more of a support stat. So 12, perfectly well get away with that as long as he has other good stats. His technique is 16. Perfectly good, something he needs. Maybe he's going to try and play a tricky pass. Maybe he's going to try and flick the ball behind him to play in a runner from midfield, be that Griezmann or Pogba or Odegaard. So technique, good. Be able to play in a trickier pass, and that'll compensate a little bit for his passing stat not being that high. Let's get the official tip actually. Player's ability to successfully find a teammate with the ball, but his technique reflects the aesthetic quality of a player's technical game, how refined they are with the ball at feet, important in being able to pull off a tricky pass or cross-field ball. So he's going to be able to pull off that tricky pass. Maybe he's going to try and play it blind in behind or something like that. So on to his mental stats now. His anticipation, of course, going to be important for a striker. Ability to predict and react to events going on around them. So he drags the defender out of position. He anticipates the defender coming with him, anticipates the run of his teammate running in behind, and manages to pick him out. Composure of 14. Likewise, steadiness of mind and ability to make intelligent decisions with and without the ball. So he knows, am I going to come deep for this pass? Perhaps Griezmann's running forward with the ball. He has to make a decision. Composure and decisions combining, 14 and 13, both competent stats. He knows, am I going to try and run in behind the defender, or do I drop deep to play a 1-2 perhaps, something like that. His composure and his decisions will help him make that come to that conclusion. He also has a 16 of off the ball, so that's going to combine with the decisions, with the composure off the ball. Do I drop off, make the run in behind, that kind of thing. So that's all going to come together. Teamwork, likewise, just a support stat for that. 13, perfectly good, competent support stat. Vision, being able to see a pass, so perhaps the ball's played into his feet by Griezmann. He comes deep to pick the ball up. Does he notice the right wing back running in behind with a possibility to square the ball, that kind of thing. Vision 13, again, perfectly competent. Support stat for a striker. And physical stats, this is where Marcus Rashford goes from being a very good player to being a world-class striker. It's kind of the same as if you watch the midfield tutorial, it's kind of what graduated Timothy Fosu-Mensah to the world-class category as well. Monstrous physical stats. Before we talk about that, height of 183 and weight 77. He's a relatively sizable lad actually, Marcus Rashford. He's not a small guy. Jumping reach of only 9 and heading of only 10. He's not going to get most of his goals in the air. But acceleration, agility and pace, all 18. He moves around the pitch like a ghost, like an absolute dream So he's going to be very, very hard to track. A balance of 17 and a strength of 15, very tough to knock off the ball as well. So he's running at you, he's picking up pace quickly, he can change direction quickly, dribbling 15, flair of 17, you don't quite know what he's going to do. Very good player, dribbling with the ball at feet. So perhaps as well to really highlight this agility stat, because I don't think it's something, I don't really think the name agility kind of gives it the importance that it needs. So for example, you hear finishing, you know, that's an important stat, that's how good his finishing is. Agility is kind of a wishy-washy name, you don't really know what it means. Griezmann's coming forward, rolls the ball into Rashford. Griezmann makes the run in behind. Rashford, with his anticipation, realises the left back's going to drop in and track Griezmann, so he does a little feint, as if he's going to make the pass, then he spins the defender. His agility is good, so he can change direction, if we actually look at the official tip. How well a player can start, stop and move in a different direction at varying levels of both speed on and off the ball. So he does a little feint, because he's got good flair. Defender doesn't know what he's going to do. Good dribbling, drags the ball round with him, busts away from him, beats him, roasts him with his pace, puts the ball away, that kind of thing. Or perhaps Griezmann's coming forward with the ball, Rashford looks like he's coming deep for the pass into feet, spins with his agility and he's away the other way because he anticipates the defender coming in behind him, etc, etc. So you can see how a lot of these things build, and how Marcus Rashford then, who you might look at if you ignore those physical stats, if you take these out of the game and you just look at his mental and his technical, he's a good player, he's a competent player, but when you put the physical stats in, that's what really makes him world class. And I think for some people, whenever somebody, you know, whenever I have a friend or something like that who says to me, oh, such and such a player, Marcus Rashford for example, Marcus Rashford's underrated in Football Manager, and I think, how is he? And you'll hear, oh well, his dribbling's only 13 or whatever, or his finishing's only 15. Say, okay, perhaps, but because of these physical stats he gets in behind, so I think physical stats are underrated a lot in the game, and if you learn the importance of the physical stats, you'll soon find players who are a lot better than you thought they were. So let's talk about another type, another way the physical stats can be important. Do I actually have a striker who can show this? Let's see, Morata. We'll do it with Ronaldo. So we'll use Ronaldo. Target man, there we go. That's what he's apparently best as. He's 38 years old, by the way, and he's still an absolute house of a guy. Obviously, he won't be able to show the pace stats and stuff because he's slower now at that age. But for the target man, first touch is 17, strength of 16. Those combine because the target man, ball rolling into feet, picks the ball up, good first touch to trap the ball, strength, hold the man off, passing, 15, play the ball in behind. So that's kind of, we spoke about Rashford coming deep to win the ball, to get the ball into feet, and then maybe a runner goes by him and he can spin and play the ball in. It's the same kind of idea for a striker, just whereas Rashford is a tricky player, a nimble player that can perhaps can perhaps burst out quickly, get the ball into feet before the defender reacts. The defender tries to run out and track Rashford, and before he knows it, Rashford's already played the pass in behind him because he's so quick. The target man's kind of the opposite. He might be slow to come out, the defender might get tight, but because he's so strong and powerful, he can easily hold off the defender, play the ball in behind him. So that's for the target man coming out to feet. This is a target man with the support duty, by the way. We'll take a look at the attack duty in a moment. The target man's mental stats, aggression is only 6. So what's his aggression? Let's read the official tip here. An attribute does not necessarily reflect a player's dirtiness, so it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fly in two-footed all the time, but their willingness to get stuck in, perhaps at the expense of giving away more fouls. So think Diego Costa, a kind of player, he perhaps maybe fits the description of a supporting target man. Ball comes in, wins it, holds the ball up well, defender comes into the back of him, he's getting stuck in, as it says, maybe the defender comes round to try and nick the ball, he bounces the defender out the way, that kind of thing for the aggression. Willingness to get stuck in, so he might charge down the defender, bounce him out the way, that kind of thing, might give a foul away, but might manage to win the ball in an area up the field. Anticipation, which as you can see Cristiano has an 18, His anticipation, official tooltip once again, the ability to predict and react to events going on round about them. I always roll over that one to drum it in, drum it in, drum it in, how important it is. So, for example, he sees the man going out wide. Could be a cutback, could be a cross. What's going to happen? He anticipates the cross coming into the back post, so he's there with his jumping and his heading to nod the ball in. That kind of thing. Or he anticipates ball's coming back to the edge of the box here, he moves out to the edge of the box to play the 1-2. That kind of thing for the anticipation. Bravery, of course, important for a target man who's going to be in the hustle and bustle. This attribute reflects how committed a player is, often putting themselves into risky situations which may cause injury. So the kind of thing, ball comes in, cross, is he going to go up against the big bruiser of a defender? So does he go in the air and challenge Ryan Shawcross for that ball? Bravery 15, yes he does. Up he goes, gets in front of Shawcross, bang, in it goes. Perhaps somebody, bravery lower, don't like the look of that defender there, he's going to flatten me, doesn't go in for it. So bravery, vital for a target man to hold the ball up and to win challenges like that. So decisions and determination, very important. Determination, let's have a little look. Player's commitment to succeed and do his very best on and off the pitch. Important, like work rate. Cristiano's is actually down to 9 just now, because he's getting older, I suspect. Reflects the player's willingness to work to his full capacity, going above and beyond the line of duty. So that combined with determination, he's going to run, and aggression actually, he's going to run around, he's going to get stuck in, he's going to chase down hopeless balls, he's going to get involved in the physical tussle with the defenders, that kind of thing. Teamwork, which Cristiano has 6, which maybe. The attribute reflects how the player can follow tactical instructions whilst working hard for and alongside his teammates. So you tell him, I want you mainly to be coming deep, holding the ball up and playing in runners. Playing in midfield runners. Does he fancy that? Or does he think, nah, I'm going to try and score goals myself? And is he good at that? Is he good at working with the teammates, taking the ball in, playing them in, that kind of thing? If that's the kind of player you want to play, like a sort of, like a screen to bounce the ball off, to use a basketball term, is he going to be good at that? So teamwork, quite important for that one. Now, the most important stats, physically of course, jumping reach, and strength, and if he's tall and heavy, that's going to help you out as well. Obvious implications there. Strength, is he going to be able to hold off the defender, or is he going to get bounced off it? Balance, I would actually say, is important in that as well. How well a player can stay on the feet both on and off the ball. If you've got a big bruiser of a defender, is he going to knock him off it? So that's quite important as well. If they can be fast and pacey, that would help, but it's not necessary to play that kind of role. If you change it to an attacking target man, you get things which are slightly different. His finishing becomes more important. I would say his finishing is always important anyway. And that's... Actually, did any of them change? Did it just... I think it just highlighted finishing pretty much. I think attacking target man is more likely to make the run into the box to wait for the cross rather than dropping deep and holding it up and playing another man in. I think that's basically the difference. I'm not going to run through Cristiano's traits because obviously he's not a target man. He's not going to have target man traits that I can show you just now, because he is mainly a winger, of course. So that is how a target man would work compared to a false 9. Let's look at more of a poacher. Is Zakharov mostly a poacher? He's a complete forward. Do I have a poacher? Martial, perhaps? Not really. Morata, what's he? Morata's a poacher. Alright, let's look at Morata. Poacher. So, a poacher is going to be relatively simple. First touch, finishing. Ball comes in. Can you take a touch and kill the ball and stick it away? Fairly simple. This is a really, really simple role, actually. There's nothing too complicated about this. Anticipation, does he see the chance coming where he can get into the... No, so perhaps get in between the sticks to just slot it home. Composure, is he going to blaze it over from 5 yards or not? Concentration, let's have a little look at the tooltip. Reflects a player's mental focus and attention to detail on an event by event basis. That's going to combine with anticipation to determine whether or not he's going to seek out the chance. Off the ball, again, it's all going to combine. Is he going to get into that position to tuck it away at the back post when it's driven across? Very simple, and that's pretty much your poacher there. Morata obviously has good stats for all of those things. You stick him up there as a poacher, you create chances, he's going to stick it away. He didn't play a lot this season, incidentally, because he was injured, so I can't really show. Can I show you stats in a past season? So he's been okay in the past couple of seasons. I actually didn't manage Manchester United for a couple of these seasons. I went away, and a little bit of background on the career here. I went away and managed Porto for a season and managed Napoli for a season before returning to Man United, so I actually didn't manage Morata. So looking at Morata, we'll talk about the advance forward as well, because he can do that job. Advance forward slightly different. Let's have a little look at the tooltip and see what it actually says. So a poacher, the poacher sits on the shoulder of the last defender, looking to break the defensive line, run onto through balls in the midfield. Although the poacher is always ready to run at his marker and is happy to cross the ball when required, his main aim is trying to put the ball in the back of the net. His focus on scoring goals is so extreme that he rarely offers much help in constructing moves, preferring instead to remain central and sniff out opportunities in the box. As opposed to an advance forward, the advance forward's main role is to lead the line and look to spearhead attacking moves, sounds fairly similar to the poacher. His primary duty is to be the focal point of attacking moves, and he is required to both score and create goals. So that's slightly different, right? Required to create goals rather than just put the ball in the net. His secondary role is to chase down misplaced through balls or clearances from deep, win possession, lay off passes or crosses to teammates. Excuse me. So basically, he's a poacher who's going to contribute a little bit more. That's basically what an advance forward is. So what does that bring into play? Brings into play his dribbling a little bit. So he's more likely to get out wide. You know, more likely the ball hit up to him, he's out wide waiting for somebody. Is he going to run in, run at the man, that kind of thing? Whereas the poacher's more likely to just be in the middle, you know, and wait to stick the ball away. He's more likely to pick it up, maybe dribble at them, that sort of thing. His heading is more important, which I don't really understand why. Perhaps he's more likely to cushion it down for another player, but I don't really see why his heading's more important. His passing is a bit more important than the poacher's, I'd say, but again, not that vital. All the other things are just as important as off the ball. His composure, his anticipation, that kind of thing. His work rate's a bit more important, as I suppose he's going to run around a little bit more. The poacher kind of just sits in the middle, kind of a bit of a lazy player. I think the poacher, to me, in my my interpretation, I don't tend to use a poacher or an advance forward these days, but my interpretation is that the advance forward is a more capable poacher. An advance forward essentially sounds like a poacher who's willing to work a little bit more. So maybe you put a player in as a poacher if he's not particularly good at other things. But I would always have an advance forward if I could over a poacher. His balance and his acceleration are also apparently more important than a poacher. I don't understand why a poacher's acceleration and agility are important. Yeah, which makes sense to me. If he's going to try and hang on the shoulder and burst through the line, that sort of thing. A poacher to me kind of sounds like a Jamie Vardy type. Bursts through the line and puts the ball in the net. So that's the basics of the striker. You get the deep lying forward as well, who's kind of similar to the false nine. We've covered advance forward, target man, poacher. The complete forward is basically a player who's just an absolute boss and can do everything. The false nine is what the prototype for this formation comes with, but it also works with a complete forward if you get a really, really capable player who's very technically gifted, excellent at his anticipation, everything, his mental stats are on point, really, really technically gifted, and a very good athletic player. A player like... I'm trying to think of somebody who would start the game as a complete forward. My mind's blanking on me at the moment. I think Lewandowski, I think, starts as a complete forward because he can kind of do it all. A defensive forward, let's go through the tooltip here. The defensive forward is becoming more and more important in the modern game. His main duty is to put pressure on the defensive line, chasing down the man in possession and loose balls, and generally stop the opposition defence having any time on the ball. In an attacking sense, he keeps things as simple as possible, preferring to bring other players into the game than create his own chances. With the defensive duty, the defensive forward will stay a little deeper and put pressure on defensive midfielders. With the support duty, the defensive forward will press the back line and put pressure on the central defenders. So essentially that kind of sounds to me like a player who's good athletically, who can finish, who can chase down the ball for days. Maybe he's good at tackling, maybe he isn't, but he basically just stops the defenders being able to have a lot of time on the ball. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. Not necessarily going to be very good at dribbling or anything like that, but is going to be okay at sticking the ball in the net and is just very athletically gifted. Probably something you would employ for a lower league team, or maybe a team who's fighting against relegation. That's what it sounds like to me. The trequartista, which I probably just butchered, can operate in the attacking midfield or centre forward positions, while similar to the advanced playmaker in that he aims to drop into the holes between the opposition's midfield and defence. The trequartista, again butchered, does far less defensively and simply drifts around looking for space while the team is not in possession. As such, the rest of the team needs to carry him while defending, but use him as the main outlet when attacking. So the trequartista is basically a luxury player. He's probably very, very good technically, brilliant at dribbling, brilliant at passing, great technique, great finishing, that kind of thing. But his tackling's probably 3, his work rate's probably 4. You know, that kind of player is what it sounds like to me. False 9 we have already covered, as I say. So that's pretty much it for the striker. I'm trying to think if there's anything I haven't covered. Well, let's actually look at Morata's player traits. Argues with officials, obviously not a good one. Plays 1-2s, so for a poacher, or pardon me, probably more for an advanced forward. Passes the ball off to a winger, runs into the box. That kind of thing sounds reasonable to me. Knocks ball past opponent, yes, definitely for an advanced forward. Knocks it past the central defender, runs in and slots it home. Runs with ball often. He's an alright dribbler, I suppose. Runs with ball often. Maybe not an ideal trait for him, but it's not going to be bad for him either. So that's pretty much the forward. The forward is kind of the easiest one. Get a player who's really good and give him his favoured position, and he'll slot into most tactics. For example, a couple of things that maybe wouldn't work. You're playing a system, maybe you've got 4-5-1 and he's the only man up top. You're playing him as a poacher. It's probably not going to go well because you're going to have the midfielders on the ball. They're going to be looking to try and get the ball forward up the park, and you've got this poacher upfield who just wants to be a poacher, and it's probably not going to work. You know, he's going to be on the shoulder, and basically the only way you're going to create a chance is try and knock it over the top of the defenders for him to run onto. You might get a couple of lucky times where you'll get through, but a competent defence is going to cut that kind of thing out. So maybe that kind of thing would be looking for maybe that's where a defensive forward would help out. I actually think playing against my formation here, if we think about how we would actually go up against ourselves, I think a defensive forward would be pretty good. Maybe 2 defensive forwards when we get the fullbacks are more aggressive. These guys are trying to play on the ball. They space quite far apart actually when a game is on. So perhaps 2 defensive forwards trying to put pressure on them. We're knocking the ball around at the edge of the box, trying to get something. It's not working. We're going to have to recycle possession. We go back to Fosu Mensah. Someone puts pressure on Fosu Mensah. Fosu Mensah tries to knock it back to the defenders so we can start again from the back. Bang! 2 players are on them, trying to put pressure on them. I could see how that could work against us. So that's possibly the use of a defensive forward. But as I say, this is how it works for the Man United team. I do use Rashford as the false 9. He's good at linking up with these guys and those guys when they get on. Pogba running. They all kind of chip in. As we can see, Odegaard has 11 goals. Griezmann has 17 goals. These are just Premier League goals I'm looking at. Pogba has 9 goals. And Marcus Rashford has 16 goals. So they all kind of chip in. And that's why I use Rashford as a false 9. That's how that works and comes together. So this has been a little bit of a shorter one. It's the least complicated position. Actually, it hasn't been that short now. I'm looking at the time. My God, how did I rabble on for 25 about a striker? Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Found it a little bit interesting, possibly even educational. Things maybe you didn't know about the game or hadn't thought about in conjunction with other things I've said in the previous tutorial videos. If you did like it, then please drop down below and leave a like. It'd be greatly appreciated. And if there's anything that you're wondering about, maybe I didn't explain properly, or maybe something you'd like to know about in a future video about the game, please leave a comment down below and I will absolutely get back to you, and possibly I'll do it in the future if it's a good suggestion. So I'll see you guys next time for the last of our positional tutorials, and that'll be on the goalkeeper. So I'll see you then when we're talking about the most important position on the park.